Hey everybody, it's another edition of HR Famous. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Tim Sackett, going solo today. Not that I couldn't find somebody and a guest. I have no friends. No, I just, there were some things I wanted to talk about. And I think some people they probably don't want to talk about, or maybe it was that it was going to be an argument. I don't know. Like there was some data that came out. I can't remember who put it out there. It doesn't really matter because I think everyone's seen it in the HR kind of space around the manufacturing side. So this was kind of like around the tariffs and bringing jobs manufacturing back into the US. And the data is basically this. It was 80% of Americans were like, yeah, bring those jobs back, like bring up manufacturing back. Like this is really important. But then the other side of it was only 20% of people said they wanted to work one of those factory jobs. And so for a couple of weeks, like back and forth, everybody's losing their minds and going like, this is so dumb. And it becomes an anti-Trump thing, whatever. To me, this isn't political at all. And I'll kind of walk through kind of like where we are with this. One is, our manufacturing jobs in the US important? Is it important for us as a society? Is it as important for us as a country? I believe they are. Now, historically, let me kind of give you the context of where I'm at, because I grew up in a family that primarily I'm in Michigan. So Rust Belt, manufacturing, automotive, blah, blah, blah. I grew up in a family that, for the most part, almost every one of my relatives worked in some kind of manufacturing environment their entire lives. Many of them union jobs. And so what we saw was, or what I saw growing up was we had this very kind of classic middle class Midwestern lifestyle. Lived in a good house, in a decent neighborhood. Was it something super fancy? Did we call ourselves rich? Like, no. There was none of that. But also, usually 2 or 3, 4 people in the family had some cabin like up north on a lake. Again, was it fancy? No, it wasn't fancy at all, but it was an amazing place to go on the summer and jump in the water and go fishing and have family around and fires and all this stuff. Like, quality of life was pretty good. They made a decent living. And again, we can get into the whole arguments of you can't have that job now and buy a house, blah, like everyone, like immediately everybody loses their mind. I'm just telling you, historically, right, these were well-paying union jobs. And what I still believe, because my company works in a lot of manufacturing settings, is these jobs are still well-paid and have really, really good benefits. And people can make a really good living doing this. Now, are they going to be a 1% or are they going to be rich? Nope. Are they going to have this kind of classic kind of middle class lifestyle? I think so. Is it harder and all this stuff? For sure. But go to somebody who's been working, 20 years at GM or Ford, or, to go to any of these like really kind of big manufacturing brands that we still have in the US. And those people who are UAW union employees working on the line are going to be like, we have a pretty good job. I want this job. Okay. Let's set that aside. Because again, there's going to be debate on all of this. Like, well, you can't make a life now today. Like, okay. All right. The other piece of this is like American pride in building things that not only do we want, but the rest of the world wants, right? So there's like this pride and like, hey, I built this car. Like, I had relatives where they would actually order their vehicle and then they would follow it down the line at a GM manufacturing facility. Like, and everybody on that line had pride that they're like, hey, we're building Tim's car today. Like, this is amazing. And like, that actually happens. Like, people think like somehow that doesn't happen. Like, that really happened. And it really happened in my life. And so, but it's not just like General Motors. You have like Harley Davidson, like a worldwide brand within motorcycles that people love that brand. Like New Balance. Like, let's not even get into the textile, clothing, shoes, and like, oh, all these Nikes are made by 5-year-old kids in China. Like, I don't know the truth of any of that. What I know is we have a really great brand that's an American brand called New Balance that people love and people take great pride that work there. Tesla, oh gosh, oh, don't get me started on Tesla, an American company building American vehicles that are electric and good for the environment. And oh my gosh, every Democrat friend I had for the last decade couldn't wait to get their hands on a Tesla. And now they still can't wait to get their hands on a Tesla, but now they want to key it. Like the whole world has, I don't know, I understand. Coca-Cola, like there's food brands, right? That are again, worldwide brands that we love. Now, is there an 18-year-old kid getting ready to graduate high school in the next month here thinking, I can't wait to go work in a Levi factory and sew jeans? I don't know. I'm guessing probably not a lot, and we'll talk about why that is as well. So I'm not saying like, hey, do we think we can't have a worldwide supply chain and have other countries make products that we buy and blah, blah, blah. No, of course. I think we should be doing that and having that. Are there certain supply chains that we definitely need to have onshored and make sure that we can control the vast majority of that supply chain that's critical for us as Americans, as a country? I do. Like when we think about like chips for AI and for, all the computing power that we need. You think about defense, you think about things like drones. Like right now, we cannot build our own chips and we cannot build our own drones. If you think about vehicles, not just cars, but I'm talking about military type vehicles, planes, tanks, blah, blah, blah. If you think about energy, like we need to be energy independent, because if we relied on most of our energy coming from somebody who potentially could shut that off to us and obviously critically like harm us, like that becomes problematic. And then pharmaceuticals. So I think when we talk about like onshoring, am I looking at going out and saying, we need to manufacture every single thing in the US? Like, no, I don't think so. Right. Because I don't I don't need like do I want to buy an American made like sweatshirt or t-shirt? Yeah, of course I would. Like I love to support that kind of stuff in jobs within our country. But is it critical that every piece of like every t-shirt and every, piece of pants and shoes come only from American companies? No, I don't think so. Like, is every, piece of food that we get, everything like, no, I think there's all like, do I need TVs made in America? No, if I don't have a TV, my life's going to be fine. Right. So I think there's a give and take here on the supply chain thing of what manufacturing needs to come back and what, and all of this that we have. What I think though is that it really comes back to this question. Do you think Americans really want these factory jobs? And you're like, well, the data says, Tim, only 20%. Like, and I'm like, yeah, I understand. Today it says that. When I was in high school 1,000 years ago, like I had kids, like I literally had to walk by a General Motors plant on my way to high school. That's so now like that was my life, right? I literally walked in front of a General Motors plant to my high school. I could see from my high school, I could see the General Motors plant. And I had kids whose like their mom and dad, their grandparents, their aunts and uncles were on the line. And they would go like, hey, my dad's getting me a job at the plant. Like I'm going to graduate. And then a week later, I'm going to start at the plant. And they were like, they were the happiest thing ever. Like, this is amazing. The money I'm going to have, what I'm going to be able to do. And at 18, they were starting their career working as a UAW employee on the line at GM. And then today people are going, oh, well, you don't hear that today. And again, union jobs are a tiny part of the jobs that we have. Like again, but like, it doesn't mean that it's always been that way. And it doesn't mean that we failed at manufacturing and that's why we don't have these jobs anymore. Our jobs got offshore because we became addicted to these really low cost kind of products. And we opened up our trade, kind of routes in a way that other countries took advantage of us and are still taking advantage of us. And you can't, the facts are the facts in terms of dumping of products and, state-run manufacturing facilities in other countries being able to be more competitive than us because of the, labor laws and everything else. But it goes back to why don't Americans want these jobs? And I truly believe and think that it's three prongs. First is public education. They're like, here goes Tim. He's going to rip on our heroes, the teachers. I'm not. I think there's amazing people. I myself, as an undergrad, elementary ed, was in the profession, I think that field of work are called to it. And are there bad people in the field? Yep. Are there amazing people in the field? Yep. That's every industry. I'm talking about the overall concept of public education and what we've done over time. And it's one person. So that's one segment, and we'll talk about that. The other one is parents. And then the other one is society in general, government, all of these pieces, right? And so when we think about public education now, if you're a kid going to school and you're a kid going to high school and you're going to graduate a month from now, you basically have like 3 avenues. And I've said this for a decade because I truly believe this, is that you primarily, number one avenue is you go to college. That's really the only thing they're telling you to do. You go to college. And if you don't go to college, then you should probably look at the military, because we obviously already discredit you from an academic perspective, and we probably think you're low life. And so we're going to throw you into the military. And again, that's not to disparage the military. 25% of the workforce I hire annually are vets. I am pro vets, pro military. But it sounds terrible when you're saying this out loud. And then the other part of this is really government support in terms of like what we've done to our manufacturing center in the Rust Belt and how we've really destroyed that level of job within the country. And it's society in general also believing that every generation should be better, quote unquote, better than the generation before them, which leads us to this concept of, well, if I worked on the factory floor, I want my kid to be better than me and work as management, or work in the offices, or get a college degree and not even work in manufacturing, or be a doctor. And then, and I've literally talked about this. Like, I know families where their oldest child is going to school to be a doctor, and the youngest, or, the next one's going to be a PA. And then all of a sudden one goes, oh, I want to be an electrician. And the family's literally destroyed by that. And I'm like, what is going on in the world where this kid can't go be an electrician, be an amazing person doing all these great things with her hands and helping build America better, blah, blah, blah. And like somehow they're looked down upon because of that. We've done that as society. So the whole public education thing is, so you're either going to go to college, you're either going to go to the military, or you're going to go to prison, because that's really what they make you feel. Is that like, if you don't go to college or you don't go to the military, you're going to get some low life job working at a coffee shop or working in a manufacturing facility. Your life will never go anywhere. And it's so awful that we are letting kids even believe this. Now, I'll go back to also on the public education side, is that everything we do behaviorally, all the classes we make them take behaviorally, it leads them to this belief as well as children, all the way K through 12. When I was in school, I was forced, and I say forced, like you had to take like a metal shop class, a woodworking shop, and automotive mechanics. Like there was electives, and you go, oh, Tim, you could have chose just to take computer electives. Like, no. In our school, you were forced to take a certain kind of elective, and then you could also take like other like computer electives or whatever, but you had to take some of these blue collar kind of skilled, semi-skilled kind of trade electives within the high school. Nowadays, people are like, oh, there's all kinds of programs like that. You're like, no. You send them to the alternative school. You send them to the kid that got busted for drugs and the pregnant girl. And then you go, oh, by the way, if you want to be a skilled trade person, if you want to be a plumber, carpenter, electrician, pipe fitter, welder, you have to go to that school. And immediately the perception is I'm less than because of that. Like, why are you sending me to an alternative? I want to be an electrician. Math is important to an electrician. Like science is important to an electrician. And yet we've done this, right? For these. So we've killed the kids' options of jobs. Now, parents, again, we've talked about this as like in terms of like, we believe our children should be better than us every generation. But again, it's a never ending, it's not a never, there's a limit, right? There's a ceiling to what is that. So like if every like within a really small period of time, like 3 or 4 generations, what's the job I have left as a kid now? I can be either run a $1 billion company, or I can be president. Like there's no other options if we keep leveling up. Like And so here's the funny part to me. So when you take, again, go back to 20% of people want these factory jobs. See, this is wrong. I love like doing the voice in my head of somebody who disagrees with me. The problem we have with that is that these kids today, and I'm saying this as a father of 3 Gen Z kids, and also really trying to dig in and understand and talk to other Gen Zs, is they actually, and again, broad strokes about, generations, we do this all the time. But one of the broad strokes is, hey, these kids just want to work 40 hours and they want to leave work and they want to go enjoy their life. They don't want this hustle culture. They don't want to be, like, oh, I'm going to work 80 hours and I'm going to be rich. And they do want to be rich. But they want to work 40 hours and then they want to go enjoy their life and do what they want to enjoy and kind of have this really great sense of balance. And they're not necessarily into the hustle culture thing that you would say is like Gen X, maybe, older millennial, where we were brought up with this belief that, you have to be grinding 24/7 and the one with the most money at the end wins. There's a lot of this generation that doesn't believe that, which I'm like, well, then these jobs would be amazing, right? Being a plumber, being an electrician, being a pipe fitter, being a welder, working on the line and moving your way up, right, into other technical roles. Like those jobs are jobs. Like I actually had a friend of mine who actually had a PhD that worked on the line at GM. He's retired now. Retired young because he got the job. And he was one of the smartest dudes I've ever met. But and I would ask him, like, dude, how can you even live in the line? He's like, damn, like, I get paid really well. I have good benefits. I literally, there's not one thing from my job that I take home with me. So I put in my 7 to 3 shift and at 3:15, I'm home. And for the rest of the day and night, I can do whatever I want to do that makes me excited about the world. And I can do that on the weekends. And if I want a little bit extra money, I can decide and I can opt in. Do I want to work some overtime? And he's like, this life works for me because my life isn't my job. And yet so many of us over the last 2, 3, 4 decades have turned our life into our job. So many of us had fathers, grandparents, mothers, like family members where we were like, their entire world is their job. That's how they define themselves. And so my hope is that we have this younger generation coming up that is like, hey, my life isn't my job. I can do many other things. I just want to work a job that I can make a decent pay and good benefits and live my life. And again, I know the other side of this, right? Is to say, well, wait a minute, those jobs don't pay a living wage and they don't give good benefits and blah, blah, blah. Fair enough. But that's not all, because I know people right now in my life that live in the neighborhood I live in that are on the line working jobs. And so you can't say that. Now, do we have manufacturing facilities out there that are taking advantage of people? Yep. Is there IT firms out there taking advantage of Indians and paying them less than wages? Yep. I can give you an example in every single industry where we're taking advantage of somebody. And again, that's why we have labor laws and in things that we do. So it doesn't mean that all of these jobs are terrible, awful jobs. It means that the jobs that left America and went overseas became terrible, awful jobs because usually they're working for countries that don't have the protections and laws and unions that we have. And so while those jobs were really good when they were here, and again, for those who are on the coast, you don't understand this at all. If you're in the Midwest and you drive through the countryside, you see ghost towns where there was a major manufacturing facility that supported that town. And you had this vibrant town and community and schools. And then, hey, we left and we went to China, we went to Mexico, we went to Taiwan, we went to wherever. And that city was crushed. That town is literally a shadow of what it once is. And I can drive an hour from my house in any direction and find those towns that were destroyed by manufacturing leaving the US. So do people want these jobs? They don't know these jobs. These jobs have been gone for so long. They have no idea what these jobs really are. They have no idea the life they could have if they really work these jobs. So should we be bringing manufacturing back in the US? I do believe we should. In specific strategic circumstances, I believe we should onshore that entire supply chain or the vast majority of that supply chain. Should we do it for every supply chain in the US, manufacturing, blah, blah, blah? No, it's ridiculous. It's a global economy. But there's certain things we have that we need to protect ourselves. Do people want these jobs? Not today, but my hope is that the collective we as a society can show people that these jobs actually are really valuable and that they can live a good life and they can have a really great balance to their life. And they don't carry around in a backpack a constant stress of a job. They can actually go to a job, get paid a good wage, have some good benefits, and then go home and live their life the way they want to live. So few of us do that nowadays. So I wanted to talk about that. I did.
Hey, this is William Tincup, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about Practitioner Corner podcast. It's a wonderful podcast about the journey, the paths of how practitioners, both HR and TA, kind of go from high school, college, all the way to where they are right now. Some of the things that they've learned, how they've been successful, people that thrive around them, etc. It's a fun podcast. You'll love it. You'll learn from it. Subscribe to it. Thanks.
The other thing I want to talk about was, and this is a little bit shorter, I had somebody come to me this week that was outside of the HR technology industry, outside of the recruiting industry altogether. They were a technologist, VC. You see these people all the time come in, and they all think they can solve the problem of hiring immediately. But this person was truly like introspective of like, hey, I've been in this now, trying to run this now. And I'm like, this is really hard. I don't understand, like, why? And his thing was, why does every technology in our space start to become an all-in-one technology? Why can't you have a technology that just solves one problem really, really good? And that's all they do. And we love that product. And that's what we, keep buying. Right. And like if you think about like products like we hold in our hands, like an axe cuts down and chops wood really, really well. It's been doing it since the beginning of time. And then someone goes, you know what would be better? An axe with a phone on it. You're like, what? Like, I don't like, why? Well, because sometimes when you're chopping wood and then let's say you cut yourself, you would have to call emergency. So you should have a phone on your axe. And you're just like, okay, I guess I can see that. And like, we start adding things on and these features and they become like this, like you just use us and that's all you use. And it's an all-in-one kind of Swiss Army knife for technology. And he was really like truly perplexed by all of this. And it was regarding like hiring. And I see this, like, because I see the confusion in the marketplace right now when someone goes, well, wait a minute, what do they do? Is it an ATS? Honestly, I don't think there's any ATSs left in the world. I don't think anybody who started out as an ATS, and there's great products in our space that they still call themselves an ATS, and they do what they actually are still really good at helping us hire better. Talk about the greenhouses, the smart recruiters, the iSIMs, the levers, all the big HCM recruiting products, like they're all designed with that. Traditionally, we call them an ATS, but they've added so many things. They've added, marketing automation and CRM and interviewing and, assessment and matching and AI community, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's like all this. So like the buyer no longer understands what any of these really are. And you're like, oh, well, they're just recruiting platforms. And you pick out the one that has all the features and little bells and whistles that you like, blah, blah, blah. And then I go, well, who's been really successful over the last 5-8 years in our space? Who's growing like crazy? Well, I mean, obviously Workday has been phenomenal. That's different because again, it's an all-in-one for a lot of reasons: ERP, supply chain, HR, recruiting, training, blah blah blah. But that's also, to me, that's a CFO kind of driven thing, where they, the CFOs found a really good product for them. And then they kind of like said, hey, this would be great if we had all this data from all the other functions and let's just, kind of build this out. So that's understandable, especially at enterprise, really big, companies like, the Workdays, the Oracles, the SAPs. When I think about like, but wait a minute, like let's get into just recruiting software, who has really grown like a weed. The easy one that comes to play, and I talk about them a lot because I think, again, they're doing this the right way, is Paradox. And because they have kept on, they're not really an all-in-one, but they are. But what they've said is like, look, here's the problem we have that we solve for you. You have high volume. You're trying to hire 10,000, 100,000, a million people in a low skill, no skill environment. We found a better way to do this. We found a widget, and this is how we're going to help you, and this is what we're going to solve. It doesn't mean they haven't added on other features where you can now, hire, skilled people and white collar and blah, blah, blah. You can do all of that, but primarily people buy them because of this one problem. And they've kept it like that so that people really understand who they are and what they are. Because I'll tell you right now, I mean, I can put 100 logos. This all came out because Gartner did their Magic Quadrant, and they actually did it under recruiting platforms. I said ATS. They said, nope, it has to be ATS and CRM combined. It has to be global, blah, blah, blah. And they had 11 logos on the quadrant, which is a joke. I mean, it's a flat out joke. They missed 25 to 30 other products that really, if you were really trying to educate the buyer, you would have put other stuff on there and said, hey, by the way, here's what this is. Now, again, they're going to come back and go, Tim, you don't get it. This is really global and this is big enterprise. But they had logos on there that weren't that. But that's what they're going to claim, whatever. If they're really trying to help, you would go and say, hey, here's all of these. Now, again, so it's a recruiting platform and there's so many that are out there, but the buyer is completely confused. Are you matching? Are you AI? Are you an ATS? Are you a CRM? Are you sourcing? Are you interview? And so like, I go back to the guy that asked me the question, and he said, like, Tim, basically, like, we're being forced to build out every feature for every person, because at the end of the day, you have to go back to the one pain point is like, look, recruiting is recruiting across every industry. I know you think it's different and that you're a unique butterfly, blah, 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 whatever. You're not. Recruiting is recruiting. I have a job. I need to go find talent to fill that job. It's not rocket science. And so that's why every one of these products that gets built becomes the all-in-one product, because it's all a race to the same thing. How do I help somebody fill this job as quickly as we can with the best possible talent that we can? That's the problem. And again, Paradox, from a segment of your population, high volume, figured out we actually think we have a widget that does that better than anybody else. And so far, everybody that I know that uses them is like, pretty good. They actually did it. And other ones are trying now to get in that space and do the same thing. And we have people on the white collar side as well doing the same thing of like, hey, here's how I think we can do it. But it's all a race to the same, which is why we see every one of these products kind of being built out as an all-in-one. It's because we're all racing to the basic same thing. Instead of just going, oh, maybe there's a piece of this that I can just do really well, and that's what we're going to do, and we're going to do it better than everybody else, and we're going to go very deep. It's hard to find really good point solutions anymore. So I don't know. I don't have the answer for that. It was something that came up that I thought was interesting because it's somebody outside the industry that was looking at this with a fresh set of eyes and just really couldn't understand, why does everything become an all-in-one? So hit me in the comments. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe. That's the episode this week. Truly let me know if I'm way off base on the American manufacturing jobs thing. I would love to hear multiple voices on this. So that's HR Famous for today. I'm out. We'll try better next time. Thanks, everybody.